In this first story, the police report starts with a sentence no officer ever forgets. Caller insists the victim has been dead for 3 days, but he just answered the phone. It happened in a quiet Midwestern town where night shifts were usually dull, until a patrol officer named Mark was sent to do a welfare check on a man who had repeatedly called 911, whispering his own address before hanging up. And when dispatch finally traced the calls, the location came back to a small house already marked in the system as a confirmed death scene from 72 hours earlier. A case Mark himself had helped seal, including photographs of the body, fingerprints, and a coroner's time of death estimate that everyone trusted. So as Mark drove back to the house, he felt that deep, instinctive dread cops don't like to admit exists, the kind that tightens your chest for no logical reason. And when he arrived, the house looked exactly the same as before. Porch light off, windows dark, police tape still fluttering weakly in the wind, but the front door was unlocked, which it hadn't been before. And inside, the air felt wrong, heavier, like the house was holding its breath. And Mark's radio began to crackle with static even though dispatch was silent. And then his phone rang, an unknown number, and when he answered it, the voice on the other end quietly said his name. Not shouted, not panicked, just calm, familiar, and tired. And the voice said, "You already saw me, so why did you leave me here?" And Mark froze because he recognized it instantly as the victim's voice from the earlier body cam footage, the same man he had zipped into a bag. And as the call ended, Mark followed the sound of slow footsteps upstairs, even though every part of his training screamed not to. And when he reached the bedroom, the room was empty, except for the bed, neatly made, and on the pillow was Mark's own badge, smeared with dried blood. And before he could react, dispatch finally broke through his radio, asking why he was calling 911 from inside a closed case. Because according to their system, Mark had been logged at that address for over an hour already, even though he had arrived less than 5 minutes ago. And when backup eventually forced their way inside after losing contact with him, they found no sign of a struggle. No body, no blood, just Mark's body cam lying on the bedroom floor, still recording, showing him standing alone in the room, staring at something just off camera, quietly apologizing over and over to someone no one else could see. And to this day, the case remains open because every few months, dispatch still receives a call from that house. And the voice always asks the same question in the same calm tone: "Why did you leave me here?" In the second story, the case file was never meant to be reopened because officially, it ended the night. All officers involved agreed on one thing: nothing inside that apartment made sense. And it started when police responded to a routine noise complaint from a high-rise building where a woman on the 12th floor kept calling 911 to report screaming coming from her own apartment, even though she insisted she lived alone. And when officers arrived, they found her sitting calmly on the couch, unharmed, apologizing repeatedly, and saying the screaming had stopped the moment she heard sirens. But what unsettled them was that her voice trembled as if she didn't believe her own words. And when they searched the apartment, they found no signs of forced entry, no neighbors reporting disturbance, no explanation, until one officer noticed something faint beneath the silence, a low, irregular breathing sound coming from the bedroom closet. And when they opened it, they found nothing inside except scratch marks carved deep into the walls from the inside out, like someone had tried desperately to escape. And the woman broke down crying, admitting that for weeks she had been waking up to the sound of someone standing in that closet at night, breathing slowly, patiently, never moving. And every time she opened the door, it was empty. And the officers chalked it up to stress and sleep paralysis, wrote their report, and left. But 2 nights later, dispatch received another call from the same apartment. Only this time, the woman was screaming incoherently, begging officers to hurry because the closet door had started knocking back when she knocked on it. And when police arrived, the apartment was silent, the door unlocked, lights on, and the woman was gone. Yet the closet door was splintered outward, hinges bent as if something massive had forced its way into the room. And inside the closet, They found her phone still connected to 911, recording audio of her whispering. "It learned my voice over and over." And as officers reviewed the audio later, they realized something worse was captured beneath her whispers. A second voice breathing in perfect rhythm with hers, matching every inhale and exhale, until the moment her breathing stopped abruptly, while the other one continued, slow and steady. And what makes this case darker is that months later, residents in that building began filing noise complaints of their own, all describing the same thing: quiet breathing coming from their closets at night. And police refused to investigate further, because the last officer who tried went home early one morning, opened his own bedroom closet, and was heard by his wife calmly apologizing to someone inside before the line went dead. In the third story, the official report says the officer resigned due to stress, but the body cam footage tells a different story, because it begins with a routine traffic stop just after midnight, when a veteran male officer named Daniel pulled over an abandoned sedan sitting perfectly centered on a rural road with its hazard lights blinking in a slow, deliberate rhythm. And from the moment Daniel stepped out of his cruiser, something felt off, because the engine was cold, the doors were unlocked, and the inside of the car was spotless, as if it had never been driven. Yet the registration came back to a man who had been reported missing 6 months earlier. And when Daniel called it in, dispatch hesitated before responding, then quietly told him that the missing man's phone had just pinged from Daniel's exact location, even though no phone was visible anywhere. And as Daniel walked the road searching the ditches, his radio began picking up fragments of another transmission, not static, but breathing, slow and deliberate, followed by a voice calmly repeating his badge number, which had never been spoken out loud. And when he demanded dispatch explain what was happening, they insisted no one else was on the channel. But the breathing continued, growing closer, syncing with his own. And when Daniel returned to his cruiser, he noticed muddy footprints leading from the empty road straight into the back seat of his car, stopping inches behind where his head rested. And the body cam captured the exact moment his hands began to shake as he whispered that someone was inside with him, even though the doors were locked. And moments later, the camera recorded Daniel apologizing softly, over and over, promising he wouldn't leave again, as if responding to someone only he could hear. And when backup arrived minutes later, they found the cruiser empty, engine running, doors wide open, and Daniel's radio still transmitting his breathing, perfectly calm and steady. And what makes this case impossible to close is that weeks later, another officer reported pulling over the same abandoned sedan on the same road, and before he could step out of his car, his radio activated by itself and played Daniel's voice whispering, "Don't turn around," just before the line went dead.